Uh, yep. Live.
Existing projects, you can also get back to them right here. Down in the bottom right hand corner, we can also create a new project. We could create folders to organize all of our projects, or we could also open projects. Up in the top right hand corner, you have different tools that'll change how we visualize all of our projects. Today, we want to start with a blank new project, so let's click on New Project down below. Next, it'll ask me to title my project. I'm going to call this the Kevin Cookie Company Official Commercial. Once again, if you want to follow along, I've included a link to files in the description. This drops us into a blank project, and we can start creating an amazing commercial for the Kevin Cookie Company. Before we get
Wait a second. Let me follow again.
Once you finish downloading and installing DaVinci Resolve 17, launch the app. This will launch the start page, and up here we can kick off a new project. If you have any existing projects, you could also get back to them right here. Down in the bottom right hand corner, we can also create a new project. We could create folders to organize all of our projects, or we could also open projects. Up in the top right hand corner, you have different tools that'll change how we visualize all of our projects. Today, we want to start with a blank new project, so let's click on New Project down below. Next, it'll ask me to title my project. I'm going to call this the Kevin Cookie Company Official Commercial. Once again, if you want to follow along, I've included a link to files in the description. This drops us into a blank project, and we can start creating an amazing commercial for the Kevin Cookie Company. Before we get started though, let's focus our attention on the bottom tabs. You have a number of tabs, and like I said in the introduction, DaVinci Resolve is very comprehensive. Today, we are going to spend most of our time in the editing view down here. To get started with our project, we need to import some media. Media can include things like videos, audio, or photos. To import media, we are going to use the media pool over on the left-hand side. The media pool is where we can view and also organize all of our media. Up in the top left-hand corner, you have a button for Media Pool. When you click on this, it hides the media pool, and when I click on it again, it'll show the media pool. To import media, we can simply right-click, and then there's the option to import media. Alternatively, and this is my preferred way of importing media, you could simply drag and drop the files from File Explorer. With File Explorer opens, simply highlight all the files that you want to bring in, and then you can drag and drop it over into the media pool.
Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me?
When you drag it over, you'll get a prompt from DaVinci Resolve asking you if you want to change the project frame rate. This is a really helpful prompt. DaVinci Resolve will look at your video clips and it'll adjust the project frame rate to match your clips. Let's click on change. This has now imported all of my video and audio files into DaVinci Resolve. One of the things that you'll notice though is it didn't maintain the folder structure. It simply placed all of the files directly in this master folder. If instead I wanted to maintain the folder structure, instead of just dropping it all directly into the media pool, I'll go back to File Explorer and I can drag and drop all of the files into this column over here, and you'll see now that it maintains the folder structure. One of the great things about DaVinci Resolve is I have a lot of control over what the experience looks like. Right now, my media pool is taking up quite a bit of space along with the folder structure. If I want to hide the folder structure on the left-hand side, I can click on this icon up in the top left-hand corner and that'll hide it. I could click on it again if I want to show it again. Now, right now, my media pool is taking up quite a bit of the screen, but I don't actually have that many files. If I click on this icon in the top left-hand corner, that'll shrink the size of the media pool. I could expand it again, but once again, since I don't have that many files, I'll keep it in the smaller view so I have more space down below for my timeline. Along with being able to set the size of the media pool, I can also adjust how I visualize all of the files. With this slider over here, I can adjust how big or how small all of the thumbnails appear. I could also view it in a metadata view, I could go back to the thumbnail view, or I could view it in a list view. So whatever your preference is. Also, over on the right hand side, I could also decide how I want to sort this list. Right now I'm satisfied sorting it by clip name, but you do have control over how you sort it. If I want to organize my files, when I right click here, I can also add additional folders.
Nah. Too updated. I mean outdated. Yeah, I think this one. Sorry.
DaVinci Resolve is a super powerful video editor for Mac and PC. So to help you get started, this video is a complete tutorial for beginners using the latest version, DaVinci Resolve 17, with everything that you need to know, all the key features and a ton of video editing tips to get you cutting like a pro fast.
I'll either learn from this or I'll just buy a upgrade.
DaVinci Resolve. Hey, it's Justin Brown here from Primal Video, where we help you grow an audience and scale your revenue with online video. If you're seeing value in this video, make sure you're giving it a thumbs up. It really makes a huge difference. And all the links to everything I mentioned in this video, you can find linked in the description box below. Let's jump into it. Now, I mentioned this on our last Resolve tutorial, but this is consistently one of our most requested videos. DaVinci Resolve has taken the top spot in several categories of our best video editing software reviews on both Mac and save that as a preset. So I'm going to come down here and go save as well. So the first thing we want to do is to create a new project. So we'll come down here to new project. You want to give your project a name. Let's call this one JB Edit. And we'll go create. So once you've created your project, the first thing I like to do is just to make sure all the settings are good to go. So you want to come down to here to this settings button. And then in here, you're going to set your video resolution or your timeline resolution. So if you're going to be creating a 1080p HD video, then you want to select here 1920 by 10. Created your project, the first thing I like to do is just to make sure all the settings are good to go. So you want to come down to here to this settings button. And then in here,
So this two isn't the same, but still okay.
you're going to set your video resolution or your timeline resolution. So if you're going to be creating a 1080p HD video, then you want to select here 1920 by 1080 or any of the other video resolutions that you're going to use. So if you want 4K, that's in here, or 720p. For this one, we're going to leave it here at 1920 by 1080. You then want to set your frame rate for your video. So in here, you're going to be choosing something like 24, 25, or 30, depending on the footage it is that you're editing. So the footage I've got is 25 frames per second, so I'm going to select that. I'll also want to make sure that whatever number I've got in here, that I have the playback frame rate set to be the same as well. So I've got 25 in both in this case. And then as you can see, there is a ton of settings in here and we are definitely not going to go through them all. But what you can do in here is save out some presets. So if you've got a specific timeline setup that you like to use for a lot of your videos, so like here 1920 by 1080 at 25 frames per second, I could come over here to presets and save that as a preset. So I'm going to come down here and go save as, and I'm going to call this 1080p 25 for 25 at 25 frames per second. I could come over here to presets, 80p 25 preset. So I'm going to come down here and go save as, and I'm going to call this 1080p 25 for 25 frames per second and go OK. And then next time when we want to create a video with those same settings, we're just going to come over here to presets and just hit load and we're good to go. Okay, so with that applied, I'm going to cancel out of this now to get back to the main interface. So DaVinci Resolve is split up into these different tabs or different workspaces along the bottom, starting first off with media, which is where you can import all your footage and manage all the media that you're going to be using in your video. The cut tab is where you can do some basic edits and cut down your footage. Edit is where the main editing happens. This is where you're going to build out your story or your import all your footage and manage all the media that you're going to be using in your video. The cut tab is where you can do some basic edits and cut down your footage. Edit is where the main editing happens. This is where you're going to build
I like this, bro. Okay, I'll go from this and
build out
this.
your story or your video, and this is probably where you'll be spending most of your time. If you
Dude. Okay.
Fusion is a super powerful motion graphics and animation area. Think of this like Adobe After Effects that's built inside of Resolve here. Color is the grading area or the color correction area. This is where you can tweak and adjust and really dial in all the specific colors and everything, or the look and feel of your videos in this section. Fairlight is where you get access to all your pro level audio tools and audio control. And the last one here, Deliver, this is where you come to save out or to deliver your final video, or the different versions you want to save out of your video. Now again, this is a beginner tutorial. We're not going to dive into things like Fairlight or Fusion or too detail on the color side of things, but we are going to show you the fundamentals to get up and running and editing inside of Resolve. So first off, we're going to come over here to Media, and we're going to import our video files and video assets that we want to use in our video. So we can just right click down the bottom here and we can choose Import Media. We can go through then and find the video and audio files we want to bring in. So I've got a folder here, Video Files. We can select the individual video files in here. We can hold down Control or Command to select multiples. We hit open, they're going to be imported. Now, if you do have a folder like I have here with everything in it, then I can actually hit cancel and I can drag and drop that file in. So if I come over here, grab my file from my other screen and drop it in here, then that's going to bring in all the footage and all the audio and everything that is in that folder all in one go. So now that we've got our assets in, we can then move across to the next workspace. And you'd normally be moving here from left to right throughout these different workspaces. Now this cut area is where we can start to cut down or trim down some of our video clips, just to select the area of the clips that we want to use in our finished video. So I find this cut area is helpful if you've got to trim down a lot of clips. But I also find it's just as easy to jump straight into the edit tab, where we can actually start to build out our video at the same time. So as I said earlier, over here on this edit tab is where you're going to be spending most of your time. This is where the editing really takes place. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to grab our primary camera footage here, camera 1, and I'm going to drag this down onto our timeline. So this is the representation, or this is our video clip. So interface wise, we've got all our clips and everything that we imported up here in this media area.
Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me?
Reloading.
Hello?
There, come back.
How do I scroll though? Alright. Yes, rating, bro. Rating, bro. Yes, rotating, bro.
We've got a preview window here where we can preview our video clips. This one over here is our playback window. This is where when we hit play on our video, that's going to play back here. So where we can view window here where we can preview our video. clips. This one over here is our playback window. This is where when we hit play on our video, that's going to play back here, so where we can view our editing masterpiece. We've got playback controls here to control the playback of our timeline or our preview clip here. We can zoom in and out on our editing timeline here using the slider here or the little arrows, so we can zoom out, zoom back in. We can use this button here to dive into the area that we have our playback head at. So if we want to zoom,
where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me?
Reloading.
Hello? There, come back. Roshan. Yeah, I can hear.
Shadows traveling.
I'll spike Harry at the stairs. Gold race.
Spike down B. Keep not get down B. Keep not.
Like it.
zoom into this area here, then we would press on this one. That's going to take us in to a more detailed view. And likewise, the one next to it will zoom back out so that we're able to see our entire edit. So the first
Down B.
Your duty is not over.
Heaven. Heaven.
first step is to bring in all of your primary footage, the main content of your video. So you can see we've got camera 1 here. This is everything that I'm going to include in that video. Now for me, this is all in one clip. For you, it might be in several clips. So you just want to select those and drag them down onto your timeline. Now, just before we get into the actual video editing, you can actually change up the layout or how your timeline looks. If we come over here to this area here and click on this button, then we get to choose some different view options. So for example, area here and click on this layout or how your timeline looks. If we come over here to this area here and click on this button, then we get to timeline. Now, just before we get into the actual video editing, you can actually change up the layout or how your timeline looks. If we come over here to this area here and click on this button, then we get to choose some different view options. So for example, if we want to hide our audio waveforms, that will turn them on or off. Now for me personally, I like to have them on, especially for a video like this. I can see all the quiet bits or the bits with no audio. That's going to tell me that I need to remove that section. So I like to have those on. We can also change up the actual view. So you can see that we're on the left one here at the moment. We can move to the middle one where we're only getting one thumbnail image, one image preview of our clip only at the start. And this end one here is to remove them all together. So I like to leave it on this one here. And then in terms of the audio options, obviously you saw up here, we could turn it on and off. We actually get to choose what this looks like as well. So again, this is personal preference. I like to have the full waveform just so it's bigger, but then we can also come down here and we can adjust the video. And obviously you saw up here, we could turn it, remove them all together. So I like to leave it on this one here. And then in terms of the
like this.
the audio options. Obviously, you saw up here we could turn it on and off. We actually get to choose what this looks like as well. So again, this is personal preference. I like to have the full waveform just so it's bigger, but then we can also come down here and we can adjust the video and audio track height. So if we want to make the audio bigger and take up more of our screen area, then we can drag this slider down to make it bigger. Likewise with the video, we can make that area bigger and smaller as well. So let's just leave it around there somewhere. Okay, so we've got our primary camera footage in here now. The next step is to start to trim it down, to remove any of the bad takes, any mistakes, or any footage you actually don't want to have in your finished video. So you can see here looking at the audio waveforms, I actually don't start talking till about here, which means that the video is likely going to start around here. So all of this stuff at the start, where I'm checking the microphone, making sure everything's all good. Obviously, we can remove this. Now, as with everything video editing, there's lots of different ways to essentially do the same thing. So I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can start to edit your footage down so that you've got a full grasp on the tools that are available to you, because sometimes it will make more sense to use one method over others. So the first way then is to grab this playback indicator or this playback head and position it where you want to add a cut. So let's say that we want to add a cut in our timeline here to remove this first piece. We can then press Command B or Control B on the keyboard, and that is going to blade or cut our clip at this point. So you can see we now have a left clip and a right clip. So to remove this, we can just press delete and that clip is gone. We are still left with a gap here as well. To remove the gap, we can select it, press delete, and that will close up the gap. Now, if I undo this using Control Z or Command Z, the other way that we could do is remove this clip and close the gap by selecting this clip and pressing Shift Delete, and is going to remove the clip and close the gap all in one go. So that's one way. Now, if I undo this, let's go back to before I've even cut it. So we've just got one clip here. Another way that we could remove the start of this clip is if we move our mouse cursor to the start of this clip, you see that it changes to trim mode. So if we click and drag here, we're able to drag that start of that clip back to where we want it to remove to. So just before I start to talk here. So if I let my mouse go now, then we have now trimmed our clip back to that.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me?
Reloading.
Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me?
Reloading.
Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me? Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me?
Reloading.
That point. Now I can come over here, pick this up and move it across, and we've essentially done the same thing. We've removed the start of that clip. Now that works exactly the same for the end of our clip. If we come over to the end, let's say that we want to remove the end. Let's just zoom in on this section. We can just come across to the end. We can grab that end and slide it back across to where we want it to show. And you can see it's snapping to my playback head here. If you want to turn this on or off at any time, the toggle for that is up here, snapping, or you can press the N key on the keyboard. So if we turn this off, then move this back across here, you can see that we've just got more granular control without it snapping to that playback head. Now let's say that we want to remove this chunk in the middle here. We can press B to access our blade tool. And wherever we click now, it's going to cut our timeline at that point. So we can just click, and we've now split our clip there. We could say click here, and we now have split off this middle clip. Now if we press A on the keyboard, or we come up here to the arrow, which is what we need to select the clips, if we then click on that clip, again we can press Shift Delete, and that clip is removed and closed up the gap. So you can see there's a couple of different ways to do things. Now there's one other really powerful way to cut down a lot of footage really fast, and that's using Ripple Edit. And what Ripple Edit does is essentially cut and delete footage back to either the next clip or back to that playback head. So for example, let's just say that our video is going well here. We want all of it up to this point here, and we don't want the rest of this footage here, but we want the ending. Then all I need to do is press Ripple Edit right, which is the keyboard shortcut Command or Control, Shift, square bracket right, and that's going to remove the rest of that clip. And likewise, if we find that we want to remove this section here from where this playback head is back to the start of this clip where that cut is, we can do a Ripple Edit left. So Command or Control, Shift, and square bracket left to remove back to the left. So if we press that, you can see that that section is...
I'll just do this. Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me? Hey, can you hear me? Hey, can you hear me?
Loading.
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 to talk here. Go. We can select a all edit right, which is the keyboard clip where that cut is. We can do a Ripple Edit left. So Command or Control, Shift, and square bracket left to remove back to the left. So if we press that, you can see that that section is removed. So using this Ripple Edit left and right will allow you to go through and remove big chunks of footage and trim down a lot of footage to a small manageable amount really, really quickly. So the idea here now is to go through, use those tools and those methods to trim down your videos so that you've only got the actual video content left that you want to use in your final edit. All right, once that's done, the next step is to bring in any overlay or any B-roll footage into your project. So you can see here that we've got some extra clips here of the switch pod with a phone mounted on it. So we can just click on these clips and bring it down into our timeline here. And you can see that we're dropping it on the layer above our video. So if we're scrubbing through here now and our video is playing back, at this point, that clip is now shown. And just like every other clip, we can trim it down. We can adjust the start time, adjust the end time. We can split it in half just to get the section of the footage that we want. So let's say that we want it to finish about here. And in this case, you can see that we've got our video file and our audio for that as well. If we don't want that audio clip, we can either mute it by coming down here, and you can see there is this little thin line. This is your volume line. If we click on this and pull it down to minus 97.67 decibels, it's going to be silent. That's mute. So
Nice. Where the fuck are you? Hey, can you hear me?
Reloading.
Hello? There, come back. Roshan. Yeah, I can hear.
Shadows traveling.
Our spike carrier is dead. Lord raised.
Spike down B.
Your duty is not over.
Heaven.
One enemy remaining.
Plant रहे हैं. Ray got a skin ray. It is very nice. Where is this guy? 128 ray raise.
Fire in the hole.
Arey no ray. What the? Not low shit. Low FPS in the house. Nice.
Escape my nightmare.
we now have no volume at that point. Or we can hold down Alt or Option and click on the clip, and it will only select that clip. You can see the top one's not selected, and we press delete or backspace, and we can remove just the audio piece of that clip. So let's say we want to bring down another one now. If we don't want to bring that entire clip down into the timeline, we can double click on it, and it's going to open up here in this preview area. We can actually select that clip. So let's say we want to bring down another one now. If we don't want to bring that entire clip down into the timeline, we can double click on it, and it's going to open up here in this preview area. We can actually select out the area of the clip that we want. So in this case here, where Caleb is putting down the switch pod, I think I didn't quite capture the shot. Asked him to do it again. So let's grab the second one. Let's say that we want this clip to start about here. I can press I on the keyboard to mark an in point. Now we go across to where we want it to finish. Let's go just before he comes in to pick it up, and we press O for out. So we mark an in and out point. Now when we want to drag this down into our timeline, we're just going to bring down this section. So we've already pre-cut that clip down. Now you can also see when I move my mouse up here, we get to choose, do we want just the video piece or just the audio piece? So if you only want the video piece, you can just click on the clip here and bring that down, and we're only bringing down that section that we had marked out, but we're also only bringing down the video piece of it. If we wanted both of them, then we can click anywhere up here and drag that down, and we'll get the video and the audio. Now with these clips, just like all of the clips, we can pick them up, we can move them around. Same with our ones down the bottom here. If we find that we want to reorder some of these clips, we can pick them up, we can select multiple clips, we can move them around. If you are going to be moving them around, I would suggest that you're turning back on the snap feature so that they are going to snap back into position and not leave any gaps. But you want to go through and add in any of your B-roll or overlay footage. Once we've got that in, now is where I like to bring in any of the music tracks that you want to have in your video. So you've got two different music tracks up here. I'm going to grab one of these and drop it down into our timeline in the audio section, so down the bottom. And again, just like every other clip, we can pick them up, we can move them around, we could trim off the start of it if we'd like to, or trim off the end of it if it goes for too long. Now we are going to get to volume levels really soon in this process, but if this is too loud for you to continue editing and making minor tweaks and adjustments, then you might want to lower the volume here just for this audio clip. So again, if you click on that thin little line and pull it down, then you can make it quieter just so it fits and doesn't drive you crazy while you're editing. So at this point, with your B-roll in, with your main story in, and now with your audio in there as well, you might find that you're going through, you're playing back through, you're making minor tweaks and adjustments. You might move some of the clips around. You might even remove some footage in there that isn't a fit for the video as you're going. So this is an iterative process where you're constantly going through, you're playing, you're making minor adjustments, all to get the video looking the way you'd like. All right, next up, we're going to add in any titles or text into your video. So if you come up the top here to Effects Library, then you'll see this appear here down the bottom here. You want to come down to Titles. And here, there's lots of presets that you can use to customize up to create your titles. There's also some animated ones down here under Fusion Titles, or you also have the ability to purchase other templates from places like Video Hive for title animations and effects and things that you can use in your DaVinci Resolve projects. So I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to grab just a basic text title, and I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to drop it on our timeline here towards the start. So if we just scrub across here now, we see we've got basic title there. So to edit this, we just want to double click on our title here, and we open.
Can you hear me?
Reloading.
Where the fuck are you?
Hey,
I'm lost, bro. I'm so lost. Can I? Okay, I got it. Where the fuck are you?
hey, can you hear me?
Reloading.
open up our title tool. In here we can type in whatever we'd like it to say. Let's go Justin Brown. We can change the fonts. So let's go with Oswald. Let's change it to a bold. We can also come down here and add things like a drop shadow, stroke. We can add a background on here as well. So let's select the title. We've got our primal video blue there. Let's change the height and let's change the width and let's change the corner radius down so it's actually a square. We can remove the opacity, and then from there we can pick it up, we can move it around to wherever you want to have it in your video. Or if you want more granular control over where it is, then you can come back up the top here and you can make adjustments to the position here using these sliders or these numbers. So you want to go through now and add in any titles or text into your video, and once that's done, then we're going to look at adding in any transitions or effects. So again, for transitions or effects, you want to make sure that you are on that effects library so that we can see this panel down the bottom here. We want to then come over here to video transitions, and there's a lot in here to choose from, and this is one area that a lot of people can go overboard with some crazy transitions and effects and things that can make your videos look really cheap or really low quality. So I'd say use these sparingly and use them only when they are adding value to your video. But some of the most popular ones are the simplest ones, just like a cross dissolve or a fade, or even a dip to color where it goes to black or goes to white between the shots. So let's just take a look back over here at our title. If we play through this, title just appears, it'll go for as long as we want it here, and then it will just disappear. We can zoom in on that.
I can just imagine weird ones. I don't want this. Can I have this here? Okay.
Grab this cross dissolve and drop it on the start of that clip. You can see it's going to let me drop it here at the start or at the end. So I'm going to put one on the start Let's also put one on the end so that this title now is going to play through. You can see it's going to fade in, and then at the end, it's going to fade back out. Really simple. So let's say that we want to add a transition to some of our B-roll that appears. So instead of it just appearing on screen here, that is going to dip to a color, like flash up, like a white flash. So we want to grab this dip to color. Let's again drop this transition on. Now the default here for this is for it to go to black. So you can see it fades out to black, then comes back up. So we want to change that black to be white. So you want to make sure that you've selected that transition, and then up in the top here under transition, we get to customize that up. So under color here, we can choose white, and you can see now our transition, instead of going to black, it's going to white. Now that's pretty slow. We can come down here on our timeline and we can actually shorten that, so it's more like a little camera flash. So it's pretty quick. And we can do the same for the other. So it's more like a little camera flash. So it's pretty quick. And we can do the same for the other end of the clip there as well. So that's a good way that you can really easily add a little bit of polish into your videos without going overboard with some of the transitions. Now for pieces of the video where you have a hard cut, so you can see here I'm talking, I've got a cut here, and then it's going on to the next piece. So maybe I had a mistake in here, or I finished one section, moved on to the next. In this case, I wouldn't normally use a transition between it because the shot looks very much the same. So first off, I might tighten up this cut a little bit. And then what I would do, instead of just having it as a hard cut or a jump cut, I would zoom in on either the first clip or the second clip just so that it looked a little bit different. So we want to select one of the clips here, first or the second one. You want to come up the top here to video, and then down here under transform is where you want to zoom in on that clip. So we can come up here to where it says 1, and we want to zoom in just a little bit, and you can see that if we play this back now, playing the first clip, and there's a slight zoom in to the second one. Now, in order for this to really work well, you can see that was kind of jarring. If you're able to keep the eyes, if there's a person on screen, if you're able to keep their eyes in the same position or as close to being the same position, it's going to be far less jarring. So let's adjust the position of this second clip here so that the eyes are almost in the same position. So that's normally what we'll do instead of adding transitions between a hard cut. Just zoom in a little bit to break it up a bit for the viewer. So you want to go through now, add in any transitions or effects into your video. Once that's done, we're going to adjust our audio levels. Now the most important piece here is the spoken piece in your video, or the primary audio in your video. So we want to make sure that we're getting that volume set right first, and then from there we can look at adjusting the volumes on music or sound effects or anything like that. So first off, I'm going to come down here to this audio 2 layer where we have our music, and I'm just going to hit mute so that we're not going to hear this. This section isn't going to play back as we're playing back our video. The other thing
That's all for today. We're at 2109. Okay, 2109. How to adjust audio levels. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there.
video. Once that's
I hope this is on